Hello again, YouTube, and I'm back here with another video here. This is one of my current projects that I was working on, and what this is I'm just gonna plug this right quick so I can open up this here case. What this is my modification of the electric water heater timer. I did have this, and it was been running for a while, and it was a kind of like a mechanical timer. Had a something like a clock mechanism in there where it just kind of rotates mechanically when the power is on, and when the power is off, it stops rotating. And sometimes, if let's say for instance there was a brief power outage or something like that, and my system, my 120 volt circuits will stay online because of my solar, but the 240 volt circuits, they just simply go off and or just turn off. And so what happens is sometimes that timer was off, and I'd have to come out and manually reset it and stuff like that. And also, there was this little lever here that I had to flip it back and forth whenever I wanted to turn the water heater on manually. So what I've done is I've modified this to do this automatically through the use of a Raspberry Pi. What you see right there is a Raspberry Pi 0W, a Raspberry Pi 0W, meaning it's a Raspberry Pi with the Wi-Fi capability. So that right there, that's a Raspberry Pi, and it's got like, you see the 40 pins, and I got wires coming out of it going into the box. Inside of the box itself, let me open it up, this is my modification. This is right there is what it looked like originally. You see the that little clock mechanism in there, but I gutted it and just simply removed it. And what I replaced it with are two solid state relays. Okay, and if you look closely, if I can focus in on that, they're upside down, but essentially what it is, they're two 240 volt AC relays at 50 amps. Okay, that's where if you look at the number upside down two, they're capable of 50 amps, right, both of them. And so that takes both of the 120 volt legs and makes it 240 volts. Up top is the control terminals, where these wires right here are actually the wires going to the Raspberry Pi. And it takes let's see if I can focus in on that. You can see that it takes, as far as the input going in, between 3 and 32 volts DC. And you see on the left right there, the 3, that's the positive, and the 4 is the negative, right? So that's the control signal, that's coming in from the Raspberry Pi. On the back, they're both mounted to a metal plate that I got from Lowe's. Basically a metal covering for one of those outlet outlet enclosures. Yeah, and I just drilled some holes and mounted it inside of this case. And so that big metal plate acts as a heat sink, because these things get pretty hot. They get really hot, actually. You can see right there it's grounded, and they're just coupled, just put together there. Yeah, I guess I could have put another little nut, a little connector on that side, but for whatever reason I didn't do it. But in any case, it's all right. It ain't pretty, but guess it definitely works. But anyway, folks, I'm just showing you folks out there just to kind of give you an idea of what I have done to control my water heater. And I've got it set. The Raspberry Pi runs a Linux-based Raspbian operating system. If you Google or YouTube Raspberry Pi 0W, you'll understand. And there's more than enough information on the net. So what happens is, because this is a Linux-based operating system, I use something called a cron job. And so I just have it set to turn these pins on. That's the 40 pin connector there. So to turn the relays on at a certain time and turn the relays off at a certain time. Now these two relays are normally closed relays. So even though the Raspberry Pi is off, and what happens is, since the Raspberry Pi is off, then they go to a normally closed state and allow power to go to the water heater. you know, to you know, heat the water. So they're normally closed. So what happens when the control signal comes in from the Raspberry Pi to turn the water heater off? Essentially, it opens the circuit and essentially turns the water heater off. So again, so these are normally closed contacts. Okay, but so anyway, this is my simple way of doing of controlling my water heater. So with this Raspberry Pi, you see on the right hand side here, you see it's powered by micro USB, 5 volts. The second micro USB underneath it right here, this is just a regular USB connection, like a keyboard or something like that. This is power, and this is for HDMI. But since I'm just using this thing to control, this particular water heater, then that's all I need it for. So we'll go ahead and plug this back in, and call it good. Okay, plugged it back in, and also I'm using Node-RED and web interface to control this thing. So with Node-RED, I can actually I can control it, turn it on, turn it off. One thing that I wanted to point out, that this box, I mean, these relays do get hot, so I kind of drill some holes in the front there. There's a hole there, obviously, and a hole there, so the airflow can go through. But as also I've got holes in the top there, so that this thing won't become a big oven, because heating up. And also there's some holes, some air ducts on the side. If you can look there, move that there, you can see those little tiny air ducts. So the thing is, one key point that I had to deal with is to make sure that there was airflow and that the hot air can escape the box, because this thing, it does get hot in there. Okay. And also, I just want to point out that I am not an electrician. I am not an electrician at all. So if you do this at your own risk. Just want to say, hey, I'm just a guy in the garage just doing stuff. But if anything, just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what some of the stuff that I've got going on. And maybe if you were brave enough to try this on your own, hey, go for it. But just be careful though. Like these things right here, this is 240 volts and a lot of amps, and it is enough to kill you. And if you don't know what you're doing, it can cost you. It'll actually, unfortunately, it can cost you everything, meaning your life. So, find somebody that knows what they're doing and know what they're talking about. Okay. Again, don't take my word for it. Hey, I just did it. It's my house, my life. Hey, I have the choice to do whatever I choose with it. But anyway, all right. Take care, YouTube.